Okay, today I'm going to show you how to make clay beads. This is a really neat project because this is something that you can do at home with your kids or your grandkids when they come up to the lake for a visit. This is basically what I'm going to show you how to do today. I'm going to show you how to make a clay bead or several beads, and you can put these on a little string of leather, which I've done here. Use it for a pendant, and it's a great little necklace. And this is something you can do right in your fire pit. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is get some clay here. And I always keep my clay covered when I'm not using it because it does dry out pretty quick. I'm going to take a small piece of clay here, and I'm going to shape it into about the size of one of my fingers here. So I have this right here. This is what I start with. And I'm just going to roll this out into a snake shape. This is a nice starting point for some beads here. Okay, I'm going to take this sharp tool here. Now, if you're doing this with your grandkids or your kids, small children, obviously, you're the adult, use appropriate tools. If older kids are using it, you can use something like an X-Acto knife with your assistance, or if smaller kids are using it, just use a dull knife. A kitchen knife is fine. Just cut it to the length of the size that you want for some beads. Now, why I'm doing it this way is I want several beads that are all the same size, so I just cut them in about 1/8 and 1/4 inch increments here. So I'm going to take that little piece of clay and I'm going to roll it right in the palm of my hand, like that. Now I have a nice round little ball. So what I'm going to do here is I just have a piece of hard wire here. You can use, once again, anything you want. A small wooden dowel would be appropriate for this too. So what I'm going to do is set that little ball of clay straight down. From straight above, I'm just going to take this and hold that little clay, just stabilize it, and just twist that back and forth until it goes all the way through. Now that's gone through like that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull that out. And I'm just pressing the edge, and then I'm going to put it in one more time, and I'm just making it go around in a circle like that. So now I have a single nice little bead there. Here are some different shapes that I made. One is more of a long cylinder. One is more of a flat one. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take that little tool, that dowel-shaped thing, press straight down in the center, pull it through on the other side. Slip it out, and I'm just pressing both the top gently and the bottom there. Stick that back in and just work that around in a circle. And what that does is that brings the outside edge of the clay bead out. So when you press on it, or you can pull that way when it's time for the bead, when it's done and it's time to string it, you won't get it caught on any sharp edges. Because remember, anything you do with the clay bead here will be, if you don't smooth it out or soften it, it'll be a sharp edge when you're all done, when it's all fired and dried. So I'm doing the same for this one. Pull it out, gently bring that in, pull it in one more time, and just twist that around in a circle. See how that goes? And down. And now for decorating on the bead here, I want to show you some beads that I've decorated on here. There's a lot of little different decorations. This bead here, you can do all of these things just with this simple bar here. I'll show you how to do some of those. Here's a flat bead that I just decorated some outside edges on with that tool. But there's many different projects you can do. Different variations. These are all fired pieces in the pit. They get little different fluxes of color. So what I'm going to do here is do a little decorating on this. Now when I decorate on my clay beads, I never just decorate them and hold them in my hands like this. And the reason being is because the clay bead is still really soft yet, and I don't want to squish that inside cylinder together because later on you'll want to insert a piece of leather or some kind of chain in there. So you want to make sure that retains that circular shape. And in order to do that, what I'm going to do is apply pressure to the top and bottom, and I am going to make sure that that pressurized air stays in there. So I've pressurized the air in there by applying pressure. So now what I'm going to do is I can do some detailing on the outside of that bead. Just going to walk that around and reapply pressure. So I can do lots of different detailing on these beads, and whenever you do detailing, just make sure that you have pressure to maintain that circular shape in there. So then you can do all kinds of little fun detailing and do whatever you want. I'll show you a nice little version. After this is all fired too, you can actually put paint inside the grooves and wipe away the remaining paint, and that what is remaining will fill in the grooves and highlight it a little more. It does make its own little beautiful patterns. You can see those all by themselves. They do stick out. After the beads are all set up and dried, I'm going to take a gauge wire that I just got from the hardware store. Just comes in a roll like this. You can just get this wire from the hardware store. Now, you noticed my tool is larger around than the wire itself. And the reason being is when you fire this in your pit, this clay, all clay, shrinks about 10%. So if those were the same size, the wire was the same size, your bead would crack and fall apart. So what I'm going to do here, let's say these are dried beads. I'm putting these on like this, and then I just bring that wire around and I twist it together, similar to this one here. And this is ready for firing now. These beads have already dried in the sun during the day, and you're ready for the firing for this evening. I'm here at my faux fireplace. I just set up a little sample so you can kind of get the idea of what I'm talking about when it comes time for firing the clay beads. Now remember, we've strung these dried clay beads onto this wire, and I just twisted it together with the pliers. And this is pretty much what you're going to have here. Make sure that the ring is about 1 foot long piece of wire, and just put it in a twist tie like this. So what you're going to do is, after you've started the fire and it's going, your campfire is going for about 20 minutes. Obviously, this is a real small version of that. But you can, let's say you're having a fire that's about 3 feet in diameter, and you've started your logs and they're burning nicely. You've maybe even had some marshmallows. You can even use your same marshmallow stick that you've used. So what I'm going to have you do initially is, let's say this rim here is the rocks up on the edge of the fireplace. I'm going to have you take your string of beads here and just gently with the stick take them and set them up on the rocks for about, I want you to set them there for about a half hour, right on the edge of the campfire. And the reason being is because this clay has to acclimate itself to the heat, so you can't do that all at once. So once it's sat there for a half hour, do the same thing, pick them up with the stick and set them on the ground right next to the actual burning wood and set them there for a half hour. And then when that's done, you can go ahead and pick them up and just set them right in the fire. You can just go ahead and let that burn all night long. That's going to be basically in ash in the morning. When you come to retrieve this in the morning and there's just ash, cold ash there, there's a pretty good chance this wire will have come apart, but your beads will all be in a cluster. And you can go through the ashes and just pick up the beads, rinse them off, and let them dry. When you rinse them off, they will absorb the water, and that's just basically because they're at a lower fire stage, kind of at like a terracotta piece of pottery. And then when you dry them out again, you'll have your nice beads. You can even put a little candle wax on them. They'll be nice and smooth that way. Or you can ornament them with a little paint. What I'm going to do is, if you come out to the pottery shop, I'm going to make sure everybody that comes out, they can have, for your family, you can take this home, little project for the grandkids. You can get a little square of clay that you can do these with your grandkids yourself. I'll include a little dowel and an instruction sheet that kind of goes over this. Come on out to the pottery studio. We'll see you there. Bye-bye.